Hey guys, and welcome back to Pop Beat Breakdowns. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down an emotional piano ballad that I recently made as part of my beat selling. Now, what's really cool about this beat, and the reason why I wanted to break down this beat for you, is because it has a couple of production techniques which is really suited to building an emotive piano ballad. So hopefully there's some really good new tips and tricks that you can take away from this video to help you with your own productions. And of course, as always, I'm going to be showing you the process of how I built this track from start to finish, so you get the best idea of how I went about arranging this track, so then you can hopefully again apply these own methods to your productions. If you are new to this channel, by the way, now is the time to smash the subscribe button, as it's the best way to support the channel, as now going forward for the rest of 2023 into 2024 I'm taking requests for certain types of beats you want me to break down. So make sure you leave a comment below after this video, let me know what type of music you want to break down in the next video and I can do it for you. But today we are doing an emotional piano ballad, so let's jump into Logic and let's break down this beat. So for the production today, it is very standard of the sort of arrangement that you get from a piano ballad. Of course, you have the piano in there, we've also got the drum section, we have different guitar layers as well as strings in here, so there's a real good mix of instruments, even though this is just meant to be a piano ballad. And this is what we're going to start focusing on first, is the actual piano itself. So the piano, you may notice, is broken down into two different tracks. So firstly, the piano that we're using today is Contact. We're using the Maverick and it's the Dirty Old Grand. I found this preset and I do really like it. Never used this one before, and I feel like it's got this nice little grit in the low end which makes it really sort of like emotional and gives it a little bit of characteristic. So let's have a listen to that firstly, because this is the chord progression we've gone with. Very simple. I like to keep one hand keeping it very similar at the top, while the second hand is playing more of the bass notes. Now, how you can make this piano sound even better, especially to give a little bit of lift and development in the choruses, is to add something called the piano low, which I've added here. Now, this is just the root note, basically playing the bass note of the piano, but it really gives a lift to the piano and gives it a lot more of a dynamic range. So this is it by itself. Sounds a bit basic, but when you add that in with the piano, all of a sudden you've got this really nice full sounding piano, which is MIDI. Not only does it cover a lot more low end in the chorus and add an extra lift, it really helps with the transition from one section to the next, because you really start to notice the difference as a listener, so that's why it's really good. Now, the next thing we want to add to this piano now is some sub bass. Sub bass is something that's really good in a piano ballad, because sometimes you just want to try and keep things very subby instead of actually a little bit more on the lower mid harsh frequencies of a bass, because you kind of want it to blend in the background and be more of a cinematic effect to help with that emotion, rather than being able to really full on hear the bass. It's better to feel it sometimes. So I'm using the sub bass today, which is just a Logic preset. This is just the bass in the subby bass here, and it's basically playing the same as the piano low. Let's have a listen to it by itself. And in context with the piano, it just helps with the low end. It helps really gel it all together, so you've got this really nice already, which is a very sort of warm sounding arrangement, which is really what we want from this emotional piano ballad. Now we're going to move on to the drums. So the drums, the first thing I always do is put everything I'm doing drum wise into a track stack, other than the crashes, which today I've put in a different track, so I wanted to mix them slightly differently. But putting your drums into a track stack is a really good way to mix them and blend them into the mix properly, because when you've got all these different textures going on, sometimes they need to be blended together before you can actually blend them again with the production. That's a really good mixing tip, so you can make it really sit well. So for today, for the kit, I've used the analog haze, and I've added just a little bit of reverb on there to make it sound a little bit more interesting. Then we've added in a shaker. I actually sourced this from a splice today. There's a couple of things I've sourced from a splice today, but it's really good. But these are very simple beats which you can create for yourself. So this is first the shaker. You could very easily create this with any shaker in Logic Pro X as well. And then this is this little beat that I found, which is really cool. And all I've done, so the drum beat is I've actually added a little bit of a low pass and a high pass, or low cut and high cut, because I wanted it to be kind of like that little telephone effect. So when you listen to it in context with the rest of the drum kits, it makes it sound very sort of delicate yet percussive. So this, again, this effect can be really easily achieved just by applying the EQ just like you saw there, but also doing a really simple drum beat and you'll get that same effect. The next thing I've done is I have utilized the drummer in Logic Pro X. If you don't know what the drummer is, if you open a new track, this is the drummer, and it's automated drummer software, and I think it's very, very underrated because I like to use it sometimes for toms. So this is the toms that I've programmed in. And I added another shaker in as well, which just looks like this. And I even added some fills in as well. You may say it's cheating, but it's not. It actually sounds really great, and I don't think this is used enough. Again, it does sound very Logic, but when you listen to it again in the context of what we have so far, it sounds pretty good. So with that in mind, when the drum's on the output, again, just having this track stack allowed me to adjust the whole volume of the drums once I mixed them all together. So it sat really well with the piano and bass, which now moves us on to the string section. Now the string section is probably one of the most humanistic and emotional instruments in terms of the violin, strings and cellos. So I really wanted to get that across in the strings. So we've got a nice big string section today. And the best way to build a string section firstly is to always start from the root note. So that's what I do. So I just recorded in this bass line, which follows the sub bass, but with a little bit more movement, so it's not just the same, it has its own thing. And it creates a little bit, again, of movement in the mix. And then the next thing you always want to add, especially if you're building up from the chorus, is then the chords. So now we're starting to build the strings. And then anything after that I'm adding, it's going to be melodic ideas, vary up, have some ascending melodies, some descending, and some floating around the middle. And this is how you create a lot of movement in your strings. So I've got 3 different ideas here, and let's listen to them all together. Amazing. If you want to know what the strings are, by the way, this is Omnisphere, and this is the Hollywood Studio String section. This is by far my favorite MIDI strings. I have studio sessions too by Native Instruments, which I use sometimes, but this is just my favorite by far. So if you ever want to look for good strings, Omnisphere does cost a little bit to buy, but you get so many great sounds of it, which I use every day. I love Omnisphere too, despite I've seen a lot of people not very good things to say about it recently, so I don't agree with that. Now we're moving on to guitars. So guitars, if any of you watched my videos before, you will know that I love to use Native Instruments, and I love to use the Strummed Acoustic too, because it's just such great guitar out of the bag. It's very simple chord progressions, but so that you don't have to worry about anything copyright, because this is just really simple stuff. So this is, if you're not a good acoustic guitar player, this could really benefit you as a producer. So this is the first one, played with the second one, and the third one, and then the fourth. And when you put it all together, like, it's just so quick and easy. It literally takes me 30 seconds to get the whole acoustic guitar for a song, where if I recorded the acoustic guitar in, set this mic up, it's such a faff. So just as someone who has to make a lot of productions a day, it's just an absolute godsend, and it saves a lot of time. And I can play the acoustic guitar, but I find myself going back to this because a lot of the time I'm just looking for simple acoustic patterns which either sit in as more of percussive elements, tracks, or I'm actually looking for acoustic guitar to be the feature of it. But there's a lot you can do with these plugins. So yeah, Native Instruments Strummed Acoustic and Strummed Acoustic 2. If you can't play acoustic guitar, check that out as well. That's really good. Which leads on to the last thing, which again is just the crashes. This just ties in with the drums. But I like to do reverses because I feel like a reverse really helps with transitions in sections. So what I've done here is, if you want to ever reverse any audio in Logic, you just have to hit Control, Shift and R, and then that will do the job for you. Let's quickly see that in action right now. There you go. Very easy to do, and it just sounds great. It just creates something a little bit more interesting. So when you listen to this transition into the chorus, we'll play it with some other instruments as well. It just creates a little bit of build and a new good transition, so when that stamp for the chorus hits, it really works. So when you put that all together, you get a piano ballad which is emotional. It has really good dynamic to it because of the strings, again, as I said, with the variation in the movement. We've got the real nice warmth that we've got from the layering of the pianos and the sub bass together. So when you put it all together, you've got a complete package, and this is the acoustic and piano ballad that I've come up with. you one last trick as well for mastering, because this is something that a lot of people actually don't do, and I feel like it can really help sometimes slightly with the feel of a track and let it feel like it's like throbbing a bit more. So I've actually chucked a compressor to the master bus on this, and this is side chained to the kick. So when the kick plays in the song, it creates a little bit of a compressed effect where you hear the track almost throbbing, almost like a heartbeat, you can say. And it's little details like that which can really elevate an emotional piano ballad. So have a listen to this. You'll see it come into action very subtly. We don't want this to be over the top, because then it can ruin a production. So you just want to subtly apply it, and that's exactly what I've done here. So let's have a listen to it without. Try and notice the subtle. And this is with it. It just makes the kick hit that little bit harder. And it's subtle again, as I've said about a million times now, but it's just so effective. And again, it's always the little details like that in the production which can really make it so much better than if you didn't. So that is everything that I've got to say really from this beat here. Try it out for yourself. I hope that you've actually learned some things from this that you can apply to your own productions. And if you have any questions below, please comment and I'll try and answer them as quick as I can. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching this video if you made it to the end, and smash that subscribe button if you're not already, because you clearly enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video.